And so John Collins' time with the Atlanta Hawks is very likely coming to an end this season. Atlanta's even given John Collins permission to go look for various trades, to go look for trades himself, to go to a team or a destination that he wants to go to. Kind of been the odd man out, right? Ever since they got DeJounte Murray, it just really hasn't meshed. It really hasn't gone very well. He's not able to shoot very well this season. He's really struggling heavily in that department. But he is still very young. He's still a very talented player. He's a guy that could be a real contributor on most teams. And many teams feel like, okay, like John Collins just needs a change of scenery, right? Atlanta's been trying to trade him pretty much since they got him for whatever reason. They just seemed determined to try to trade and unload John Collins. So John Collins, if he gets a new place, new scenery, better role, better fit, okay, well now he starts, getting back to the form that we know he could get to. Now that's a player that many teams really feel like, okay, he could be a real needle mover for us. He could be a real contributor to this team. And there are a lot of teams, based on various reports, of John Collins going to several destinations, right? Indiana is a team that has been rumored to really trying to make a push for him. You have Miami trying to make a push for him. You have the Suns. Like, there's no shortage of suitors that would love a guy like John Collins. So if you're the Atlanta Hawks, you definitely have some options. It's just, what deal do you like the most? What type of deal do you think is the best in your scenario? Now, based on certain reports, it looks like Atlanta wants some, perimeter help, some defense, as well as some shooting. And so a team that has recently popped up as a potential destination for John Collins, and a trade that actually does kind of make a lot of sense for both teams. Like, usually there's, when you see these types of trades, it's like, okay, like that isn't, I don't know about that. I don't know how that works for this team or that team, or like that doesn't really seem like a fair trade. This actually seems like a pretty even, fair deal in my opinion. And what it is, it's the most recent report that I've seen. It was from Jake Fisher. I don't know if somebody else reported it first, but the first report that I saw about this was Jake Fisher, so that's the one that I'm using. Jake says NBA personnel expect the Jazz to be sellers, with teams inquiring about Beasley and Vanderbilt. Utah would want a first-round pick back for each. Also mentioned that John Collins for Beasley and Vando package, with the Jazz seeking a first. Clarkson not a trade candidate. So there is talks about potential John Collins for Beasley and Vanderbilt. Now, many reports have came out since then about this very thing. And I really think that this is a relatively fair trade. I really do, because Vanderbilt is still young. He's a sizable 3-and-D style wing that could really be helpful to a team like the Atlanta Hawks. And then Beasley is a young shooting guard that could really knock down the ball, can really shoot pretty well. And I just think if you could get these two and you're the Atlanta Hawks, I don't think that's a bad deal for John Collins. I really don't think so at all. You get two guys with decent size, right? Like Malik Beasley is a guy that is 6'4" in size. He's shooting the ball really well this season. He's a guy that can really kind of help in that department. He's a career 38% three-point shooter. He's a guy that has had 42% three-point shooting seasons. And so he's a guy at 3-and-D style, 26 years old, that could come in and really be a factor and contributor for the Atlanta Hawks. I really like him on the Atlanta Hawks team, and they could really use a player like him currently. And then Jared Vanderbilt. Jared Vanderbilt's great, 6'9" in size. He's got good size. And Jared Vanderbilt, if you've watched him this season, dude, defensively, he is absolutely brilliant. That guy is everywhere. Now, he's not a great three-point shooter. He's shooting roughly 33% this season, which is much improved compared to previous seasons, but he also is not taking a bunch of attempts. He's taking roughly one attempt per game. He's around a 27% three-point shooter for his career, but it's his defense, his hustle, and his drive, which the Atlanta Hawks could really, really use. They really could use a guy like Jared Vanderbilt. And I think that he would be a really nice compliment, a better compliment, because he's a guy that doesn't really need the ball, right? Like he's a guy that he's just so good at all like the hustle work and all the dirty work and just making up for like defense. Like I've watched plays where like he'll be guarding one guy and like get all the way to the other side of the court and force like a contested shot, and then like they'll get like the offensive rebound or whatever, and then he'll like trail back over, get that stop, and then like the offensive team will like swing the ball, and then he's like running back, like he's like guarding 5 guys at once. It's insane. Like he's had some like just brilliant defensive plays this season, and like it's just you're just like, wow, this guy he really is. He's just a really good, solid hustler and contributor to this team. And he's very young, right? He's 23 years old. Again, good size, good length. I think these two could be really solid contributors. This would give them just some really nice depth also, which they could really use. And if you're the Utah Jazz, I mean, you get John Collins. You know, John Collins and Lauri Markkanen for the next, several seasons is a pretty good front court. Although they are kind of running Lauri Markkanen as like a 3. And that's just kind of what he's been, right? Like he's just been like an oversized 3, which has been pretty interesting. But he's been thriving really well, right? Like he's been doing a really good job. So if you do decide to keep Markkanen at the 3, like you could have Markkanen at the 3. Like you just have like a really big front court, right? Have John Collins at the 4. Like I don't think this is bad at all if you're the Utah Jazz. Jordan Clarkson, he could be a really solid player for them going forward as well. No, it'll be interesting to see what happens to him, right? He turned down the extension, but like, do they end up giving him more money? Does he end up staying? Does he just kind of want to see what's out there on the market and then just decide, I'm going to stay here? But even if he does leave, Colin Sexton could be a guy that maybe comes in and plays better. But like, yeah, I mean, you could go like Walker Kessler, Lauri Markkanen, and John Collins. Like that's not bad at all. I mean, that's actually pretty solid. Or have Kelly Olynyk, right? Kelly Olynyk's got good size. You could have him at the 5, like, so go Olynyk, John Collins, and Lauri Markkanen. I mean, ideally, you'd kind of want a defensive shot blocking center, especially with Lauri Markkanen and John Collins, if John Collins can kind of get back to form, just shooting the ball wise. But even if not, like, I mean, it gives you a solid, 2 solid pieces and Lauri Markkanen and John Collins to really build for your future, right? Really kind of lay the groundwork for your future. Lauri Markkanen has developed into, basically an all-star this season. He has been fantastic. And if you're the Jazz, like Vanderbilt would be nice. Beasley, you kind of feel like they're going to end up giving up Beasley at some point or end up like letting him go or something. He doesn't really seem to be part of their plans for whatever reason, which he's still relatively young. I don't really know why, but they're a team that they're probably better off just hitting the reset button. This kind of feels more of like a retool move than like a rebuild, right? Because I mean, Lauri Markkanen has been great. Colin Sexton's actually been pretty good for him this year as well. Jordan Clarkson's really kind of stepped up, and Utah's been kind of like that they had a very impressive start. They have came back to reality a lot, but it's a team you look at and go, man, like they definitely have some promise, right? And if they could go get a John Collins in the process, then now you got this kind of just core of talent that you could really use going forward, and now just start kind of filling in the pieces, right? And then whatever you get in the draft, maybe you make some big move, some big trade, right? You got all these draft picks and stuff from, the various trades, from Rudy Gobert trade to the Donovan Mitchell trade. But, worst case, you got John Collins, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler. You basically have your big rotation. Taylor Horton-Tucker's had some bright spots for them, and he's still very young, right? So he's a guy that could maybe become something for them as they go forward. But Colin Sexton, I forgot him. He's still very young and a part of their future. He's only 24. So you got this like really good young core that has shown that like they can play really good together and really, make some noise. They're a team that's still in the hunt for a potential playoff spot, although I think that they continue to regress. I think teams kind of figured them out now. I think it was just like that, like, oh, we're all together. Like, I think it was just, you see that sometimes, right? Some teams just come out firing, they come out hot. All these guys, they're just kind of playing basketball rather than like, in the scope of things, like they don't really know what's going on. They're just playing, they're just hooping, right? And now you're starting to see that sort of slip off. But a move like John Collins, maybe that kind of picks it back up, right? Yeah, John Collins comes in, he's got a fresh scene. He's in Utah. He's on a team that wants him, that doesn't plan on moving him, that see him as a part of the future. And so, maybe he comes back and really kind of gets back into the flow, into the swing of things. And now maybe he's a piece that has more of an impact than a Beasley, and a Vanderbilt. Like, I just think defensively, Vanderbilt's just been so good for them. But he's not really much of a major scoring threat, right? Where John Collins gives you much more scoring and much more of that high flying capability. He's still a good, shot blocker and just defender, just because of his athleticism. Not like elite or anything like that, but he has his moments, right? But again, young, 25 years old. So now you got this like core of just like, 24, 25-year-old players that are all have experience, right? So you're not like super young to where it's like, okay, we're going to be terrible for the next like 5 seasons until these guys grow up a little bit. Like, no, you're actually a young, good quality team that's only going to improve year in and year out, but everybody's old enough to kind of understand how the league works, right? And so you're competitive for the next several seasons, as well as like just continuing to improve and see like, okay, well, we could really use, a 3-and-D small forward, right? So let's go get this guy. We could really use like a more traditional point guard. Let's go get this guy, right? Like stuff like that. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think of John Collins to Utah for Vanderbilt and Beasley? Do you like that deal? Do you think like, hey, no, actually that's a solid deal. It's kind of a fair trade. Do you not like the deal? Do you love it, hate it? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below.